Coming to you from my quarantine bubble in Burbank, California, this is the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Quinn, boys. I have Born to Lose tattooed on my chest, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, three-time back-to-back-to-back and reigning podcast champion. Everyone knows he's got one leg, and the motherfucker grabbed the wrong one, Leonard Smith Jr. What's up, man?
Hey, oh man, I really like that intro. I like that.
I like
that. Yeah, man, everybody in town know I got one goddamn leg, and you gonna grab the wrong one. That's disrespectful. Where is my money? Luckily, we don't bet on this, or Quinn would owe me a lot of money, as I am the reigning back-to-back-to-back champion, if you did not know.
We don't bet, but I do still feel like I've paid a lot.
Oh, yes, you have paid, for sure. I have also paid, surprisingly.
Yeah, a little bit.
But today we got a very fun episode. And, you know, usually our guest gives us this prompt, and if you've been listening, I've been wanting to do a heist episode. And I threw this to our guests, and they were like, let's do it. And today we have on the hilarious actor, comedian, improviser, all-around funny man, Sean Will. What's up, Sean?
Boom, boom, boom. What's going on, fellas? Yes.
Hey, Sean, thank you for joining.
Man, look, I'm not going to lie. I am excited AF for this episode, man, because I love a good heist movie, you know, mainly because I'm scary as shit. So me trying to do any of this, like I could watch Indiana Jones, right? Like the dude's hanging off a tank and off the side of a cliff, and he still makes it. Like for whatever reason, I can do that because there's an element of fantastical element to it, right? And I'm like, I'll make it. I'll be fine. You know, looking for the Holy Grail. I'll be all right. The cave can come down. I'll still make it. Nah, man. Heist movies feel too real, man. Like you go into a Wells Fargo and I'll be like, nah, man, like give me all the money, run it up. And then somebody might recognize me because I'm tall and lanky. So they'll be like, is that Sean? Is that gap in his teeth? That is Sean. Oh man, come on, Sean. They taking photos and selfies and stuff. Now we in trouble. Now they knocking on Leonard's door.
So you were just disconnected through both of these movies, just thinking about how you would get caught the entire film is what you're saying.
I would get caught. Like, because I literally, I would be dumb enough to as soon as I rob it, go out and grab something to eat at Takaya or something, right? Just sit down, and then somebody walks up, and they're like, "Oh man, you still got your mask on." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's right." So then I gotta take off the mask. Now they're gonna hit up Leonard, be like, "Hey man, this guy works. He does improv with you. Now we gotta hit you up. Now you an accomplice, Leonard. Quinn. Now that we talked today, now you accomplice, Quinn.
I'm an accomplice
all because not yet. You are now to the robbery. And I'm just saying, look at that. It's a tangle web we just weaved right now, man.
You just asked me to put that duffel bag in my oven. I didn't look inside it. I didn't know what it was. I don't see why I should be an accomplice. I like that you know this about yourself, Sean, but you also you have the wherewithal to be like, I'd probably then hit up a taqueria and still be wearing my Richard Nixon mask, but you don't think that you'd be able to change those habits if you were to do it. You'd be like, nah, that's just going to be how I roll.
I am who I am.
I am. When I'm hungry, I don't think right, but yep, exactly.
Well, that is for sure a concern when you're committing a heist, and obviously are going to be plot points in a heist movie. We have concerns in both our movies. Like I said, I was very excited to do a heist movie, mainly because this was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I wanted to do it, and I wanted to talk about it, and then I wanted Quinn to watch it because I'm sure he had not seen it.
Nope.
So I'll go ahead and reveal my pick right now. As me and Brian Simpson said in the season opener, it's a black heist movie. Brian, I don't know if you guys heard, but in the episode, Brian said me and him should write a black heist movie together, and I haven't emailed him because I'm afraid he'll just turn me down, but hey, we'll see. I don't know if he was just talking because he's on the podcast, but I would love to write a black heist movie. Anyways, my black heist movie is Dead Presidents.
Ooh. He also told me he'd do a white buddy cop movie, and I haven't emailed him about that yet. A black white buddy cop movie. I'm sorry, Leonard. I stepped on you. You got
No. You had to get that joke in. It was a good joke. Dead Presidents. It's a 1995 film. It is directed by Albert Hughes and Alan Hughes. I'm guessing they're brothers.
the Hughes brothers. That's how they're known.
Oh, okay.
Or that was how they're credited, like in Menace to Society and stuff. Yeah.
The Book of Eli, yeah, they're the Hughes brothers. Yep.
The Book of Eli was kind of anyways, starring Lorenz Tate, Keith David, Chris Tucker, Nabushi Wright, Freddie Rodriguez, Bokeem Woodbine. It is the trailer, the cover. It's all about the heist. I've done this as Halloween. The white face, black eyes, black skull cap, all black look. It is very, I feel like, known at least in black culture and pop culture. It's like, you know what that is when you see that.
Exactly. Yep.
And it is like the last 30 minutes of the movie, but this movie is a lot of movies. This movie is a coming of age movie.
Yes,
it's a war movie. It's a heist movie.
Yes.
And
every single black actor and actress that was working in the 90s is in this
like in this movie, right?
Yes,
it's
everyone.
Like, all right, and that's what I appreciate about these black films. It's like, all right, someone wrote a good script, and it's like, all right, this is a script that this could be a white movie. You know, this could all these people could easily be white people. Yep. From the script that it's written. You know, I mean, obviously there are injustices and stuff of being black in the 70s. It's set in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. And we are following Lorenz Tate's character. I can't remember his name right now. I have to look it up. That's a shame. Was that?
Got his name. I know,
Anthony,
right?
That's right, Anthony.
Anthony.
And he is graduating high school. He is from a middle class family. They're pretty well-to-do family. His brother's an accountant, and his family is expecting him to go to college, but he wants to follow in his father's footsteps and join the Marines.
Right.
And his mother is unhappy about it. Obviously, he has a high school sweetheart. They have sex their senior year before graduation and leaving. He gets her pregnant, finds out that she's pregnant. He's going to
Vietnam.
He's going to Vietnam, and he is in the Vietnam War. He's in the trenches. He's a part of a recon unit. They are in the nitty-gritty, doing real shit. And, there's obviously things that happen to you and change you as a person, and the disconnect he needs to have to stay alive out there. So there's that whole aspect, and dealing with other people who are in the Army, and we meet a cast of characters throughout from his high school and through the Army experience. It's kind of like a way, the story, what I appreciate about this is like the story is like, this is how all these people got connected and how they all came together and why they're doing it. And, we get back, from the Vietnam War. He's not making any money. Nobody wants to offer him a job. He does get a job, but it's not really that much. He has to deal with the issues of the disconnect of his daughter, the relationship of his baby's mother, who had to be at home by herself while he was at war, and it leads to him needing money and committing this heist. And obviously things happen. Usually things go wrong, things go right, and we know how in heist movies in Hollywood the bad guy can never win. So, we know how it's usually going to end. But it's a really cool movie. It's a movie that, I don't know, like a lot of black actors wouldn't be able to have like roles like this at the time. So it was a really dope movie, and it was a movie I've loved since I was a kid.
And now another great thing about that movie, if I can just interject real quick, the Hughes brothers was coming right off of Menace to Society, right? Which is a classic, right? Boys in the Hood. Then you think Menace to Society, which kind of took that concept and even went further into it, really showed you life in Los Angeles. And so for their follow up, for them to do a period heist or a period piece like in the 70s, they had the budget, they had all these wonderful actors. Like, they obviously had Keith David in mind for this role. They obviously had a young Terrence Howard in mind. And for them to not play the same type of quintessential stereotypes that you would have seen back in the 90s, if you come from like a Menace to Society and then you see something like Dead Presidents, where it's a really good film, like you said.
It's an everyday man. He's just an everyday man.
Who just happens to be black. And this entire cast just happens to be black. So I think it's tremendous what the Hughes brothers tried to do, or what they did do with this film and with this casting and putting it together. And like in black circles, this movie is an absolute classic. It is iconic. So
Well, we're facing another. This is iconic, but we were two iconic movies. Not everyone would say this, but I'm for sure everyone would say that Quinn's pick is an iconic pick. What was your pick, Quinn?
So I chose a film also from 1995.
Wow,
also
crazy.
featuring a deep ensemble cast, mostly white actors. Although there's some good Dennis Haysbert. I forgot Dennis Haysbert is in this movie. There's some talent all across the board in this movie. I'm talking about Michael Mann's Heat. The Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, cat and mouse heist film. 2 hours and 50 minutes of just
Thanks, Quinn.
Yeah, I know. You know what? But Leonard, you usually take your picks and you're like, I'm going to educate Quinn a little bit. I'm going to give him a movie that his sheltered white ass probably did not see growing up. And when I found out you hadn't seen Heat, I was like, I gotta pick Heat, Leonard. You gotta see Heat. And this is a movie.
I was very appreciative. of this pick.
I know you reach out to me and you're like, damn, this movie's pretty good. Because sometimes Leonard gets a little chippy, with the picks, and he's like, why'd you make me watch this movie, especially if it's long? But you're like this movie.
Right.
But this movie is about Al Pacino, who plays Lieutenant Vincent Hanna. He looks for the big. It's another. I'm sorry. Actually, did we talk about Dead President's set in the Bronx? Leonard, you referenced my Yankees hat. That's
yes.
That's the Bronx. The boys in the Bronx. But Heat is a quintessential L.A. movie.
Yes, it
is.
is.
It is lovingly shot throughout L.A. in a way that kind of only Michael Mann can. It stars Al Pacino, as I said, about the bank robber hunting LAPD detective, and then he is chasing Neil McCauley, played by Robert De Niro. Who, I mean, Robert De Niro, there's so many good lines in this movie. What does he say? He's like, don't have anything in your life that you can't pack up in 30 seconds when you feel the heat coming around the corner. Like, He plays a loner. He's not lonely, but he is alone. And he's, pulling off this big heist. Pacino's on his tail. What I love about the movie, that's basically, it's a long-ass movie. There's a ton of subplots. Natalie Portman plays his daughter. She can't find her barrettes. There's all sorts of stuff going on in this movie. But really, it boils down to that. Val Kilmer's got a ponytail.
He's rocking that ponytail fresh off of Batman Forever.
Peak 90s Val Kilmer, like Jim Morrison, Bruce Wayne, sexy Val Kilmer with the blonde white boy ponytail that works. It works. But this
Ashley
movie is
Judd is in this movie too.
Ashley Judd, Tom Sizemore.
I was about to say Tom Sizemore, man.
Tom
Sizemore had a nice little run there in the '90s with the
yes, he did.
Reservoir Dogs and this, and he was just in all those classic.
Ted Levine, who plays Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, is Bosco in this movie, the dude that they try to kill outside the diner, who then
Waingro.
He's Waingro. Oh, I forgot.
Oh no, Ted Levine is the cop. My bad. Kevin.
No, wait. Yeah, you know what? Do I have the wrong guys? Anyway,
that's right.
No. Ted Levine is Bosco. Ted Levine is the cop.
Yeah.
Danny Trejo's in this. I didn't.
Danny
even know
Trejo.
that.
Anyway, it's an incredible cast. I'd say the whole movie is built around the kind of parallel sides. They're two very similar guys, De Niro and Pacino. It was a very significant movie at the time because despite being in The Godfather Part 2 together, these are kind of the two titan actors of their generation. They both came up in the 70s. They are in The Godfather Part 2 together. They are not ever in the same scene because De Niro is playing a young Vito Corleone. And so that scene halfway through, I think it's the exact midpoint of the movie basically, where they sit down at a diner together and they just talk, is one of the best scenes from the 90s. I mean, it's a great scene.
I have seen clips of that scene before I ever seen the movie, and now it just makes it so much better. Actually watching the movie, and it was just funny. They were making this movie, and it's they're in no world is the cop the person he's chasing really gonna sit in a room if they're someone isn't under arrest. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they just had to write this in the script. They were we have to have this scene. They I don't know if it was originally in the script before the casting, or if they were just no, we have to. They have to be on a scene together on the screen at the same time.
I almost feel like you said maybe because remember he penned the script. Michael Mann. This was a script that he wrote back in '79, I think, and was trying to pitch it for a while until he finally got the reins to direct. And so he pitched it to De Niro, who pitched it to Pacino. And pretty much, if you remember, the promotion for this movie, it was literally like that coffee shop scene. Like, it was like these two titans are actually in the same scene together. Like, you're watching almost a 3-hour movie, a 3-hour beautiful freaking masterpiece. And when you get to that 6-minute scene of them just sitting in a coffee shop going back and forth, these two alpha males like sizing each other up, saying, "Hey, I respect you, but also I might have to kill you.
I'll have to put you down.
If
I see you, I'm going to have to put you down." Which
it's
is very
amazing. Yeah, you're just watching this, and like you said, like nowadays you don't have things like that anymore. Like there's the movie star aura that you used to have back then, like with Stallone and Schwarzenegger and these two titans selling the movie. That 6-minute scene sold everybody on Heat, and then once they went in and saw the movie, it's like, oh shit, this is a good movie. You don't have that anymore. Now everything is characters. Now everything is like, oh yeah, I want to see Spider-Man, or I want to see. You can interchange that. You cannot interchange De Niro and Pacino.
Yeah, the modern day equivalent would probably be Jason Momoa's Aquaman sitting down in a diner with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They're like, I'm going to have to web you if I see you in the
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Like, the lore isn't the same, I feel, because now studios are like, no, we're putting all the biggest actors in the same movie. Like,
right.
It's like, all right, nope, we have to team these combination of actors up and see what happens.
Exactly.
I
get it.
Well,
I get it. It sells.
Heat,
but I mean,
I'm going to tell you, man, it was my first time experiencing Heat.
Yeah, I want to know what you thought about that, Leonard.
It was damn good, man. Like, even like the setup of the first heist was cool as fuck. Like, just opening with the heist, like instantly. That motherfucker, as soon as that motherfucker came, I was like, give me another coffee. I was like, this dude's a piece of shit. Like, you just instantly knew that he was a piece of shit. And just the little details, the slick detail. And it was like, oh, this motherfucker is a wild card. He's going to shoot this dude. There's no reason for him to shoot this dude. And I thought he was going to get killed.
I had to get it on, man. I had to get it on.
Yeah. It was like, all right, well, it was so obvious because it was like, all right, this crew is a very clean crew. This is a very, like, well put together crew. They're going to kill this dude. They don't want any fucking loose ends.
Right.
And then he gets away. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, oh, that's
that was kind of on.
And I was like, oh, wait, that's not going to come back to haunt them for another 2 hours.
Maybe they'll forget in this.
The least trustworthy looking motherfucker of all time, and you let him get away.
Right. I was a little confused by some of the subplots. Like the fact that the dude was a serial killer that only killed black girls. That was a little random. It was just like another reason for you to hate him.
Right.
But it necessarily didn't really play that well into the storyline, I don't know, of the overall movie. Maybe there was more and it was just like got left on the cutting room floor because there was a lot going on.
Good Lord,
but,
if there was more.
Yeah, I mean, did we even mention Natalie Portman's in this movie? Like Natalie Portman. Oh yeah, we did. Her barrettes, right? But like she like that whole subplot is extraneous.
Exactly.
So extreme.
I will say this. My roommate told me, who's been on the pod, Austin Kress, told me that apparently the entire film, Al Pacino's character Vince is coked up. And
I heard that.
He's doing coke. They shot scenes of him like doing coke before, like doing like all the time, and it got cut from the movie.
Do you think that's the case, or do you think Al Pacino's people have put that out in the streets to come up with some explanation for why he is so constantly at 11 in this movie?
I know. I kind of wish he didn't
insane
tell me
in this movie.
I kind of wish he didn't tell me that, but I like the way fucking Pacino played it, man. I think that dude would be an insane
What are you,
person.
fucking Al? He's got so many like fucking crazy lines in this.
And his eyes is just like, who?
Yeah,
who?
when he's at the junkyard.
Yeah.
When he's at the junkyard and the guy, he was very unhinged in that scene. That was
right.
He's also like hawking. He's like chomping gum a lot. Like he does have a lot of kind of cokey tendencies in this movie.
But then again, but it's Pacino. So like, think about it. Like if you watch Devil's Advocate, or if you watch like
Scent of a Woman,
House of Gucci. Like
I have never seen Scent of a Woman.
Oh,
that's where the famous hoo-ah comes from.
I don't even know. Like, I was talking about this with my girlfriend about my mom only had like dramas and like thrillers. And
she knows in a lot of dramas and thrillers, by the way.
Yes,
where are you going with this?
Like all my favorite movies as kids were like I'm like 12 years old, and like my favorite movie was like Devil's Advocate. It's like, what? That's
At 12?
Yes, I love that movie as a kid.
It's a good movie, man.
Sean, have you heard the story about Leonard finding what was it? What was the title? Working Girl in a VHS in a drawer of his mom's room and thinking it was porn, and he put it on.
No, it wasn't.
Oh my God! Please, no.
It was a part of all the tapes, but it was like
Leonard, tell the story.
It was a. So my mom had a bunch of cassettes. My mom had a cassette collection. She had
everybody's mom in the '90s had
Right.
like stuff they taped from the
exactly.
Yeah,
That's not the weird part of the story.
My mom had like 50, 60 movies. I had like 4 of them. But I was looking through the movies and I saw this tape, and it wasn't an official tape. It was just a dubbed over tape in the sleeve, and it had Working Girl written on it. And I was like maybe 13, 14. I was like,
Come on, man. I got to get it on, man. I got to get it on.
There's got to be this has got to be something.
I got to see
And
this.
even if it is a movie, there's going to be nudity in it. But I thought it was going to be like a porno or something.
Why would you want your mom's porn? Why would
Exactly. Why would you want to watch
porn? Is porn. Okay.
Oh my God.
Disconnect. It's not my mom's porn. If I turn it on and my mom was on tape, that's
No,
a
that's not what anyone's suggesting.
whoa,
We're
whoa,
just saying
no.
if it's porn that your mom would be into, why do you think you would be into it?
Bruh, y'all
Once
talked
again,
about
porn is porn.
Oh my God. Y'all talked about
So
Old Boy the
I
last
thought I was
podcast. We got
going
to stay away
to-
from this.
I thought I was going to watch this and get off, but instead I became enlightened.
I'm just
to a
imagining
woman's plight, and it's a great movie.
you could have seen this movie 25
Girl
years
was
ago
one of
if your
my-
mom had a
Working Girl was a
VHS
great
labeled
movie.
Heat, and you'd be like, ooh, Heat.
Oh, Heat. Oh, I got to check this out. Ooh. And what's funny is probably more nudity in Devil's Advocate than whatever you were probably watching, man.
I just
100%.
know that when I chose Working Girl for
Oh my
Blow
God.
Up, Quinn was very shocked, and I was like, "Hey, man."
Yeah, I was shocked, and then I heard that story, and I was more shocked. But thank you for telling it again. I feel like Sean
But I
needs to
will
know
say
that
this.
story.
I will say this. I managed to get off to Working Girl. So
Oh,
it happened.
God.
Oh, come on, Leonard. Jesus, man.
Nothing's hornier to Leonard than female empowerment.
I see.
You goddamn.
I know,
right.
right? Working girl.
Well,
But
Oh,
yeah.
it's kind of hard to segue from that.
Well, I got one, Leonard. We both, and actually, Sean, I'm curious. Are you a big Batman guy? Leonard and I are big Batman fans.
Yes.
Are you?
Very.
Do you have a particular era that you gravitate towards,
More
or Batman?
than likely,
I guess.
Honestly, a lot of people would like to say either Keaton or the Christopher Nolan one.
Yeah.
For me, it was the animated series. Like that.
Oh, hell yeah. I
That's
like
my
that.
Batman. Not trying to be funny, but that's the Batman I know. The stylized,
Mark Hamill's Joker is still the GOAT, I think.
the GOAT, and Kevin Conroy as Batman. Like to me,
Great.
because also it translates to like when you watch the animated stuff, like the DC animated movies that they have now, and they use the same kind of voice actors. Them shits go hard, man. Like they're violent. They're accurate in their portrayals of like Batman and like you said, Aquaman and all these characters. So I would say the animated one, but if I wanted to say live action, still the GOAT to me is the Dark Knight, and the Batman is like right behind it, like right behind it.
I think Leonard and I, at least for the movies, land in the same place, although always happy to have a shout out to the 1992 Batman animated series. Everyone should check that out. But Leonard, is The Dark Knight still your favorite Batman movie? Did the Batman displace it, or?
Fuck, man. I am also gonna say I grew up on the animated Batman series. I watched so much of the animated Batman series as a kid, and I haven't watched it in so long. And you know what? I think I'm gonna
HBO
go check
Max.
it out. It's
HBO
I know
Max.
it's on HBO Max, and I thought about it, and I
Ooh,
haven't
I gotta
watched it.
watch
And you know what? Now I am gonna watch it.
Same.
For nostalgia purposes. I'm not really a big nostalgia guy, reflection guy. That's not my thing.
That's why we do podcasts about movies from our childhood.
I know, right?
Exactly.
Well, I bring it up for a specific reason. Apparently,
I will bring this up. I will say this.
Oh, okay.
I saw Dark Knight in theaters 3 times. A big Dark Knight guy. I
Same.
didn't know anything about Heath Ledger, but I was sad when he died. Okay, I didn't know
Right.
much about him. Still a big bummer. The Batman was fucking great.
Yes.
It was so damn good. You know me, I'm not really into the big fake superhero, fake action movie genre or stylized film, and I really liked the grittiness of it. I really liked it. Just felt genuine. It really felt like some rich depressed nigga was like, fuck it, I'm gonna suit up. Let's see what the fuck happens. Like, I'm cleaning up the streets.
Yep.
And the Riddler, the incel field with the 500 followers.
Yeah.
And he had his whole community, but
a
only
dedicated
100 of them
follower
showed,
base.
But
Very
only 100. Yeah, they were
dedicated.
dedicated, right? But only 100 of them motherfuckers showed up to Gotham Stadium.
Only 100. That's a pretty good success rate.
There
I
was
feel
not 500
Seriously.
people in those goddamn Raptors. I'll say that. And they were all white. So I was like, go ahead and give them the Academy Award.
Well, they couldn't. They couldn't bring any black ones in because like we can't swim, and they flooded up Gotham. So we ain't gonna go swimming. Like, no, man.
Maybe the others were blowing up they set up the bombs. I don't know.
Maybe
but,
so.
I don't know.
Oh, spoiler alert to those
I
who
don't
haven't
know
seen
if.
it.
I mean, there is a heist aspect to it. The beginning of the Dark Knight. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment and say that it's better than Dark Knight.
Well, that's
So
what I
I'm
was going to
gonna
say.
go with
The Dark Knight, apparently, Christopher Nolan, before they started shooting, and I think for Batman Begins, he did the same thing with the movie Blade Runner, just to kind of like impart a feel and a tone that he wanted to capture for the movie. Apparently, before they started shooting The Dark Knight, he had all the cast and crew come together, and he showed them Heat. And he's like, that's what we're trying to do here. And if you watch The Dark Knight is similarly like, that movie is propulsive, and there's just so much shit going on, and there's so many different
There's like
subplots.
3 plot points.
From
There's
like
like
the
3
guy
so
who
true.
like figures out the thing
so
and he's going to
true.
go on TV and reveal Batman. Like, there's all those little different plots. Obviously, it's not the same movie, but you can definitely get the feel of Heat with The Dark Knight.
So agree.
And so I think that's an interesting takeaway, Leonard, for someone. We've talked about how much we both like The Dark Knight. And I had too. I watched The Dark Knight before I ever saw Heat. I didn't see Heat until I was in my 20s for the first time. But like seeing it, I was like, oh yeah, I get it. There's definitely like a Michael Mann, and that goes in far. I want to get back to talking about Dead Presidents, but before we transition back, like that shootout scene, that kind of final heist where they take the bank and then they're just having a shootout in broad daylight on the streets of LA with the cops, and the bang from the guns, like,
Yes.
he sent those guys to like weapons training, and I guess like some of the people that coached them are like, Val Kilmer like learned how to like drop his cartridge and reload like in one sort of thing. Like, these guys were, they're not real guns, but they're like doing that
Right.
shit. And I feel like you can tell with the sound, and it just feels very kinetic. And Sean, it sounds like you did not watch this movie for the first time for this podcast. So I mean, like, had you seen it in a while, or what were your take on stuff like scenes like that, and just I guess the movie in general?
Yeah, no, it's been a while since I've seen it. Similar to you, I saw it later. I didn't see it in '95, but I did watch it. I want to say like early 2000s. A little bit, because I'll tell you this: my first Michael Mann movie really was Collateral that I saw, and then and I didn't realize he also directed Ali until later. And so, and I remember how Collateral was shot, and I revisited Heat because I was like, well, I've never seen it, so I definitely want to watch it, and I'm watching it at home, obviously, and even from like my little ass TV with the stereo sound with the 2 speakers, the fucking gunshots that the bullets that are raining in LA during that final bank heist. The sound, the way the music is like even getting you amped up by watching, because shit is about to go super sideways. You know this because it's a huge shootout. I can only imagine how that would have sounded in the theater. I can only imagine if they remastered Heat and did it for like IMAX 4D or something. You know what I mean? Where your seat's shaking, like you hear the sound.
We need a that's so sad to say, but a 30-year re-release, 2025.
Yes.
It's coming up.
In theater re-release of Heat. I want to see that in theaters. That would be an amazing.
This is also
that
like
whole scene is just so jarring. It's just
Tom
so,
Sizemore picking up the kid. Like, what a
Yes!
scumbag picking up the kid. It's just like,
What a fuck. Oh my God. He's terrible. Picking up the kid. And then Pacino's like, okay, you want to get this kid. Bam. Right between the eyes.
We also haven't talked about we'll get to Dead Presidents, but we haven't talked about Dennis Haysbert as Donald, the black line cook, ex-con.
president from 24. That's how I know Dennis Haysbert.
I know,
president
man.
of the United
It's
States
the
of America.
Allstate guy.
And then the Allstate guy.
Just him getting fucking murdered instantly, but like, just, man, it was so good. Like, It's like, oh, he's so close to getting in the car, and then
I know.
you see them across the street, and he just starts blasting. It's just like, holy shit, man! But the whole thing with me was like, why the fuck are these cops shooting these shotguns? Like, what are you doing with this shotgun, man?
These motherfuckers got automatic weapons, and y'all just like put them shotguns down. You ain't doing nothing, man.
You're like 100 feet away.
That's like Harlem Nights, where Arsenio Hall and the other guy was like shooting the pop guns, and that little dude pulled out that little
shit down.
Put that little ass gun. Stop shooting that little ass shit. So, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very happy to be on this podcast, but man, y'all couldn't have y'all picked some bangers for this one because
it really depends on the prompt, but I do feel like Leonard and I both put our best foot forward this time. And now let's get back into a little bit of Dead Presidents, talking about fucked up. Fucked up things like Tom Sizemore picking up a kid and using her as collateral. There's a lot of great actors in Dead Presidents we talked about. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Bokeem Woodbine, who is an actor who I had probably seen in many things, but because of like
he
where I
always
was
plays
at,
the creepy black dude.
The first time I noticed,
the one that just can't get right.
The first time I noticed him and was like, I got to look up who this guy is. It was very late in his career. It was embarrassingly late, for someone like me, for a guy who put in good work for 20 years at that point. But I first noted him in season 2 of Fargo, the TV show, where he just plays like a similarly like kind of eccentric character. He's like that is actually also set in the 70s, I think. And he plays this kind of like eccentric hitman character, not that far off from the kind of character he's in this. And he's like the only black guy in that cast. And every time like the local authorities are trying to like give him shit, he goes, "Oh, is this that Minnesota Nice everybody's talking about?" Like he just always plays like crazy but very confident characters. And in this one, he is the most unhinged member of their platoon in Nam, and we literally see this dude hack off a fallen Viet Cong soldier's head with a machete and keep it in his knapsack to the point where it is rotting to like a point where I was like, this is gross. Like I knew it was obviously it's all a movie and stuff. I don't really get grossed out, but when you see that head after he's had it for a while, and they're like,
and it's gross, but
you gotta bury
like afraid of him.
Yeah,
Everyone's
like Christopher from The Sopranos is like, you gotta bury that head, dude.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right. And then the second he buries it, Christopher gets his insides taken out. But like,
what we're saying is the scene. I'll paint the scene. There is like they get pinned down by a faction, and they call in a bomb drop. Everybody gets blown up, so they're going through. They're about to head back to their rally point or whatever, and he's like, "Nah, we need to check for Cleon." Who was played by Bokeem Woodbine. It's like, no, there could be information on these bodies. Let's go check. And they're scavenging the bodies. I guess the sergeant or whatever the higher ranking officer finds the belt buckle of a high ranking officer that is killed that I think Cleon wanted. And so when he can't get that and he's upset, he chops the head off. And he said, you get a souvenir, I get a souvenir too.
Right.
And he puts it in his fucking bag. And the entire time he has the head, which I guess it's
supposed to be good luck. Yeah, he had it for a while.
He said no one has been harmed since he's had this head.
Yeah, so we haven't gotten so much as a splinter in the time where I've had this.
Everyone collectively, like it's like somebody's like, nah, man. And somebody else is like, yeah, I'm not really cool with that shit. And somebody's like, yeah, that shit's gross. And then I love how like Chris Tucker's finally like the last one to be like, yeah, man, that shit is disgusting, man. That shit is, you need to do it. It's like, bro, you waiting for everybody else to say something, and then you find like, and he's like, all right, I'll bury it. And as soon as he buries it, like everybody dies.
Remember, because Leonard, because he says something like, "There goes our good luck."
Yeah.
He's just like, after he buries it, it's like, oh.
The movie makes no bones about it because then they find out that Christopher Moltisanti, I forget his name in the movie, but from The Sopranos, who plays the guy who dies.
His name is D'Ambrosio.
D'Ambrosio. They're like, where'd he go? And it goes, I don't know. He went away to pee while Cleon was burying the head. And so, like, as a movie, you're like, oh, okay. So this means like their good luck is gone. He's dead. You're not gonna find this guy alive.
His fucking intestines out. Now this is what
they like put some. They put like some of his intestines in his mouth or something. Like I don't know what that was supposed to be.
And then they put a note about how like black soldiers shouldn't be in the war, even though he was white, so that was confusing. But
yeah, I didn't get that.
They were trying to get some messages across. I don't think anybody in that fucking platoon would be as noble as they said, kill that motherfucker right then and there. All they're like, let's get him to the rally point and we can get him medevac. No. Kill this man. Put him out of his misery. And it's a plot point for the movie to be like, all right, Anthony is willing to do what he needs to do to help this man out. But I just thought that scene was a little ridiculous. But I don't know.
How about that shot where you transition to Vietnam, where he's like running away from? He's
cool.
hopping the fences,
I like that.
Getting away from Juanita's parents who just came home after he unknowingly at the time knocked her up, and he's like hopping over the cars, and then they just kind of like pan past like a tree, and he's just running through Vietnam. I thought that was a cool.
Can you imagine like
that time
you finally have sex? It's your first time having sex. You go off to war and you find out that you got someone pregnant. It's just like, man, I'm batting 100 and I'm not happy about it.
Seriously, like. He's a daddy now, but he's trying to fight this war and stay alive. But it's like, damn, I do have to go back home. But do I want to though? Yeah. And then like, you know what I mean? Like he could this nigga. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say this.
No,
this man could have. Yeah,
say whatever you want, man.
I can't say it. You can say that. We can say anything on this podcast.
That's damn right, Quinn. No,
I keep chanting Leonard. One of these. No, I'm just kidding. All right.
but it's funny because he literally could have went anywhere else, but he went back home, and I get why. Obviously, you just went through war. You probably have some fucked up stuff in your head that you need to deal with, but he literally could have went anywhere he wanted to once he got back, and he was like, nope, I'm going back to the Bronx.
And like, okay. This movie, I feel like this movie was just like sometimes as a black creator you have to over exert yourself and tackle more things and speak on more things as a film. Yep. And you can't just sometimes you can't just make a film. You have to have messages in it, and there was a lot that was spoken of in this movie. The whole drug epidemic and coming back and being addicted to drugs. That was Chris Tucker's character, who was, he was the comedic. What is it? What's the term? I can't.
Comedic relief.
Comedic relief. Jesus Christ. He was the comedic relief. He was just being Chris Tucker, being funny, happy-go-lucky guy, and then he goes into the army, and he's an addict, and he's hooked on drugs. People not caring about veterans when they come back from the war, disabled people. And what I really like about this movie and why I liked it so much as a kid and why I like the movies that I like is it felt real. It felt genuine, and it's like you don't think about these stories. You don't think about these people's backgrounds. You just hear headline of this person did this, and you're like, oh, that person's a piece of shit, and you keep on pushing. Your life keeps moving. Yeah. But this man, he's in the movie, he's a veteran. He fought for his country, killing people, seeing crazy things, probably committing atrocities, and he comes back to no love, to no acceptance.
Right.
And he has to feed and provide for his family, and he's driven to this place to commit this heist.
And it's interesting, actually. I want to, if we can, focus on the Juanita of it, because you bring up a good point, Sean, which is that there's that scene where he's talking with Chris Tucker, and they're just getting drinks at a local. They're still in Vietnam, and he's telling him that he has a daughter, and Chris Tucker's like, "You got a photo? I know you got a photo." And he goes, "I don't." He basically says, and I think I took that. The character is where he's like, to make it out here, I have to live as if I don't have a daughter, if I don't have any, because the second I think about that, then I'm gonna die. Because you gotta live like you're already dead, basically.
Yeah,
you gotta keep your head on the swivel. Yeah,
and he doesn't get caught up in the drugs and the stuff that Chris Tucker gets caught up in. But when he goes back, he does try to reconnect. He goes to see his mom, and his mom has that nice, well, it's not a nice moment, but I thought it was a true moment where she's like, you can't even look me in the eye. There's that moment where he's grown up a lot, and not in the way that he thought he was going to grow up when he went to the war, because he tells his dad, he's like, you went to Korea and it made you a man. And it's it makes you a man, but it's not really in the way that you would choose if you don't have to. And then he goes to see Juanita, and he finds out, first of all, he sees her sister Delilah, who is I guess it's not.
Has the hots for him.
Yeah, she has the hots for him, but I guess it's like I was thinking like they were going to do kind of like a Black Panther kind of thing because it's about that time. They don't really go that route. She's just in this sort of like the communist like revolution, just kind of general the revolution, anti-establishment. Yeah.
Right.
And so he's thinking like I was just fighting against communism, you know. So the world is kind of different for him. And then Juanita, he finds out, kind of. Because he stopped answering her letters, you know. I mean, like I thought there was a lot of nuance to the Juanita character in the sense that she got with a guy.
What do you expect from her?
Cuddy,
yeah,
right. You can't knock her for what she did. Like,
and exactly, she needed someone to provide for her. He goes and sees her apartment. There's roaches crawling around it. She's got a daughter that has not been provided for. She can't make enough money for it. So it's like, and then I understand his pride is wounded, but it's also like, what are you going to do? So I thought there was like nice moments of nuance, and you definitely understand, as you say, Leonard, the heist is really the last fourth of the movie. It's the last half hour of this 2-hour movie, but like you get why Anthony wants to do it by that point. But I thought it was like those scenes with Juanita were like the most real, because there's in both of our movies there's some weird over the top stuff that maybe you're like, would this really happen, you know, and that's the fun of movies. But like that scene where Cuddy, who is, I guess, who was played by
Clifton Powell. I was going to say, we got to shout out
He's
Clifton
great.
Powell. This might be his this might be his third or fourth time on the podcast.
Really?
I know he was in Next Friday. He is
Next
Pinky
Friday, yeah.
in Next Friday.
Black Hall of Famer.
He's Cuddy in this.
Yep.
I want to say that he's in. No. Damn.
In what?
He's not in. Tales from the Hood. He's not.
Okay.
I was about to say he's in Boys in the Hood, but he's not.
No. That's a different.
I know it's not him.
Black person.
I want to say he's in something else, but he's for sure in those two movies.
Right.
But Clifton Powell, if you know as a black person, you know who Clifton Powell is.
Oh yeah,
because he's in all the black movies. So he usually
him
plays
and Jennifer.
that.
Is it Jennifer Williams, the mama, the one that played Lorenz Tate's mom? What's her name? Is that? She's also in Blackish.
Yeah, she's in everything.
Jennifer Lewis.
Jennifer Lewis. Yep.
From Blackish. But
Black
man,
Hall of Fame.
Clifton Powell does a really good job of being this skeevy pimp like character who also just has to keep it real with Anthony's character and be like, hey man, you were gone, like
you weren't here.
It's like it's not the person he wants to hear it from, but
he needs to.
Yeah, he's like the worst guy because he's not a good dude. He's like stopping next to the car and he's like trying to give her $200 through the window where Anthony's in the passenger seat, and then he like
that
shows
scene
up.
is amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, then he's like, hey, this is Anthony, and he just pulls off.
Yeah, I would like to introduce you to. Car drives away. Yeah,
that's such a.
But that scene in the hallway where he's coming home with all the extra meat from the butcher shop that just closed, and Clifton Powell's like leaving, and he's like, you know, I was just giving her some money, and then they have that argument afterward. I mean, first of all, he almost like puts the gun in his mouth and makes him suck on it,
nigga.
like he,
you sucking nigga.
But then Anthony goes and like gets in a fight with Juanita where he like chokes her. I guess I mean like the movie. Yeah. None of the De Niro's not sympathetic in Heat, although he's De Niro, so you kind of like him because I don't know. But like Anthony is not like he's had a lot of wrongs done to him. He just wanted to go and serve his country and do the thing. But it's also like he then goes home and he drinks and I've never been to a war. I'm not saying how veterans get fucked up, obviously, but like he's not kind to Juanita. He can't get past his ego. He can't get past his. So it's like he's not in the right, like you're rooting for him to maybe go right or for things to work out for him, but you see him sabotage his own self. It's not just the things that happen to him; it's the fact that
Yeah, exactly. Like to me, it feels like Dead Presidents is very much more so a cautionary tale than
Heat.
Than Heat. But that goes to your point, Leonard, of like with black filmmakers in particular, it feels like we have to juggle multiple messages behind.
You can't make Heat with a black cast because white Americans be like, oh, look at these just criminals and these thugs. You know what I'm saying?
No, seriously.
But with Dead Presidents, it's like, all right, let's give them some heart. Let's show who these people are, and then they'll commit the heist.
But the only other thing with Anthony, and then we'll move on. But the one thing I didn't understand was before the heist, and he's plotting it and he's mapping it out and giving everybody their instructions. You never see that tactical side of him before. Like you've never seen that. So then all of a sudden, whereas Macaulay, De Niro's character, he's got his shit locked down because they've they've set it up throughout the movie. Like, okay, yeah, no, this dude he's on top of his shit. Like, if they even watching Heat now, I'm still like, damn, they got away with it, but De Niro's character just couldn't let that shit go. Like, he couldn't let Waingro go.
Yeah, he could have fucking got.
Yeah, they make
He could have gotten away.
They make well sure that like De Niro has a code and he has like a philosophy, that whole like everything you can't pack in a bag in 30 seconds. He's got like this is how I don't get caught. And so that when you see him not follow it at the end of the movie, you're like, he's dead. Damn. Like, this is going to cost him.
But we all knew. And that's when the whole thing of like the killing of the girls and whatnot, it was like, there is no way Waingro is making out of this movie alive. There's no way. There's no way. Like, see, everybody watching this movie wants to see Waingro get killed. Right. And it's like there's a cost to that, and that's Vince McNeil's life. So
maybe that's why. Yeah,
the girl. It cost him like getting away with the girl.
Bro,
that scene with played by
it cost him having to watch her
Amy
walk
Brenneman,
away.
who's quite good. Yeah, having to see her.
Edie Brenneman. Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
For some reason, man, I really had the hots for Edie Brenneman in this.
Amy Brenneman, yeah. Edie is the character. Yeah. No, she's
Edie is the character. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you merged the two. We knew what you meant. Yeah. Yeah, she's nice. But I was gonna say, I think what another thing about heist movies, especially these two movies had, they always if you're having a heist, right? Like you're trying to steal money and get away with it, right? I think that's the goal. That's the end game. Then why did they bring in Bokeem Woodbine's character? You knew he was going to fuck up. Why would you bring in Waingro? Because that's the problem with these Hollywood heist movies. You always why are they bringing in the one person that can't get right?
Waingro was like, how many was, I think they said that was his first heist.
I was about to say, did Tom Sizemore's character, I'm trying to remember now, did he vouch
Tom
for him?
Tom Sizemore is the one who fucked up.
I think he vouched for him. Yeah, I think he vouched
He's
for him.
the one who fucked up and said it to the black dude and was like, oh man, I've been missing some action. Yeah. That's what the part I didn't understand too, because it's like, so then this was Tom Sizemore's first heist back? Because the way they were talking, it was like he hadn't had action in a while. It was like, that part didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Waingro, and then they said it was Tom Sizemore, and then I was like, wait, that?
Right.
But he's been committing heists, or maybe he had just come back and finally gotten, and they had money sitting waiting for them, so he's been well off. That part was confusing, because it's like, how does Waingro even have that much information on him?
Right.
He was like giving that, so that was like one of the, I feel like, maybe writing hiccups or whatever that I was a little confused by during this movie.
Right.
But
if he's going around fucking killing like kid prostitutes, like you would know that. Why would you bring him aboard? Like I don't know. I did not understand it. And granted, Bokeem Woodbine, the dude cut off the head of somebody, right? Kept that shit in a bag.
I love that he's a priest when we see him next. Like,
and he's a priest.
He's a priest.
But here's the thing: the reason why
the
reason why I found it believable, even though it was stupid, is first of all, Anthony at the time, his judgment was was impaired like, in multiple ways.
Yeah.
And there's this thing. I mean, when you're in the Army and you go through shit like that together, or in the Marines and you do shit like that, it's like, that's your brother. That's you. Who are you? Who else is he gonna go to with being like, I'm gonna rob this armored truck? It's like you can't trust many people, and pretty much everybody in there was served in the Marines at some point. Like everybody except for the female character.
I bet you Terrence Howard wouldn't have snitched on him though.
It was like adding Cleon and Chris Tucker's character was like, what are you doing? This just all seems like a bad idea.
Thank you.
There's always that moment in heist movies where something unforeseen happens, either like that they didn't account for in the planning, or something on the day goes wrong. And I liked a lot that moment in Dead Presidents where Bokeem Woodbine and Chris Tucker are posted up on opposite corners of the same block, and they're just waiting to get the haul once Freddie Rodriguez, who I don't think we mentioned, who's good in this movie as well, like blows the truck. And it hasn't gone down yet, but they're waiting, and a young black beat cop comes walking by and sees Bokeem's jacket, which shows that he was from like the 1st Recon Division, whatever. And he's like, let me check the schedule for you. I always got time for a fellow, soldier. And so like,
right.
And his whole thing, Bokeem Woodbine's thing, and we see the moment in the movie earlier, is that like when there was a firefight where their commanding officer got killed, Chris Tucker froze up. Like he's just on the ground, kind of huddled. Cause he just, he's taking fire and he didn't know how to react. And he says to Anthony, he's like, I don't want to do a job with this guy. Remember, he freezes up, blah, blah, blah. And now we see Bokeem's character, we see Cleon freeze up, which is an interesting like flip because they kind of set you up to believe that it was going to be Tucker, especially since now back in the U.S. Tucker's a junkie basically, or he's addicted. But
but
so it's interesting.
But what I also like about the parallelism of that is, yes, in that scenario he froze up and he was quick to shoot down people over in Vietnam, but in this one,
it's a fellow black soldier.
The morals have flipped, and now he doesn't want to kill this young black man. And Chris Tucker's character is just some junkie who doesn't give a fuck, so he has no problem shooting this guy. He's just another fucking person to him. But in this one, like Cleon, Cleon is freezing up because of who the person is also. So
it's not the same at all, but it is still interesting in the sense of like this, everybody has their own weird moral code. And the fact that this dude who literally lopped off the head of a Viet Cong soldier is like, well, I can't do this to my brother in arms, and it's like, I get it, but it's like, that doesn't make sense. Like I understand how his internal logic leads him there, but that doesn't make sense. It's weird so it's interesting. The dynamics at play are very interesting. I felt like Delilah was like slightly underdeveloped. I wish there was a little bit more of like that confrontation of how she and Anthony were kind of ideologically opposed. But at the end of the day, they both wanted money. So she's like, she seemed to be like, fight the power, fuck the man. Like, yeah, I'll get some money. I'll join this job with you. Also, she was in love with him, which doesn't, feature that heavily. But you get a sense that's why she's kind of willing to go with him. And then she dies for him, basically. She dies saving him. Yeah. So that was interesting. And Leonard, you talked about it. I guess we can start to move into our 5 criteria. The first being pop culture. As someone who had not seen this movie, but was familiar with that there was a movie, Dead Presidents and stuff, the only thing, and honestly I probably wouldn't have even put them together, but I did know them separately, was the face paint. That kind of mime, that kind of creepy mime face paint with the white face and the black around the eyes. They kind of look like skulls. I don't know. I mean, it's a very cool look. You said you've done that for Halloween, Leonard? Yeah,
I've done that with Halloween, with the black beanie, black gloves, leather jacket.
Yeah,
I think I did in like 2009 Halloween. It was
also
a good costume.
The needle drops in this movie are like from like Sly Stone to Al Green to like there's some great music.
Yeah. You can't fuck with the soundtrack
music.
Yeah. I mean that era.
Pop culture wise, the whole outfit.
This movie has a lot of people on the up. Like I was saying,
feel like also a lot of people were on the up. Even the poster, like the Dead President's poster, was a popular poster.
It was just the face,
the black, just the face with the gun holding it up. I've seen that a lot at people's places. We have. It's one of the first sightings that I can recall of Terrence Howard.
I thought he was going to be a bigger part in the movie because of how famous he is now. The fact that he wasn't part of the heist team or something, I was like, well, but Terrence Howard. It's like he was not a big star at this time.
That might have been one of the first mains on film.
Oh my God, he says mains so much.
His hair is immaculate in this movie.
Got this young ass kid in here, man.
This young ass kid. But pop culture. Dead Presidents gets referenced all the time. Hip hop music. A lot of songs dealing with that.
And then, like you said, and at that time, the Hughes brothers were coming off of Menace to Society. We all saw Menace to Society, right? And so you follow it up with this. It might not have done as well or been as well received as Menace to Society was, but again, you see that poster, you see the mask, you hear the music. And then so many of the actors in there. I mean, this is literally the definition of a black classic. Like it really is. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm just trying to trivialize it or bring it down by just calling it a black classic. I think it's a really well made movie regardless, but it's very, very, very much accepted. It just is. Like when you think of Dead Presidents, you think of Love Jones, you think of certain movies, Brown Sugar, things like that, where it's like these are classics, but they're more so classics for us. You know what I mean? Like these are our classics. So
yeah. This was, and you guys can speak to it better than I can, obviously. But it's interesting because Leonard, you've given me a couple movies from this period of black filmmaking, which
amazing
there's
period.
Much more history to get into it, but very loosely. I mean, it seems like Spike Lee kind of comes on the scene in the 80s and breaks through, and then you get this like 90s wave of like thoughtful kind of independent black-minded cinema from black directors and writers. And you've given me Boys in the Hood previous, which was not a movie I'd seen. I'm going to out myself, and I feel like I'm going to out myself, and I feel like it's only hurting my own thought. I've not seen Menace to Society, but I got to now go and check that out.
You will watch that.
You're gonna see Sean's face when I said that.
So then when I see Quinn again, he's gonna be like, "You gonna run some snaps on the Petro?" And then I'm like, yeah, you got it, Quinn.
Clifton Powell is in Menace to Society.
Yes, he is.
But like,
yeah, he is.
These movies were not. It wasn't like, and God bless, rest in peace, Sidney Poitier, who died recently. But like, this was not like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Like white people, here's a black person in this movie. Aren't they just like us? You know what I mean? Like this is like these are movies for everybody, but primarily made for a black audience with like a black cast. Which Hollywood, I guess, in retrospect, kind of treated this period in the 90s almost like a fad because they kind of went away for a while. And now we're seeing black filmmakers and black stories a little bit more prominently again. Who knows? But it is interesting to look back on this time and be like, this movie's not made for a wide white audience. Like if the audience finds it great, there's a lot to appreciate about it. But it's made with black talent for black audiences, which is very cool.
Yeah. I'll just say this real quick, and because I know we definitely got to move on. But during that era, like you said, Spike Lee, not only him, but you also had like Keenan Ivory Wayans, Robert Townsend, Matty Rich, who made Straight Outta Brooklyn. You had a lot of black talent behind the camera, but there was only so many opportunities. And then when you had like this explosion of black creativity from like the mid 90s up to like the late 2000s, and really I think it kind of started with I think Boomerang was like a catalyst for a lot of thinking outside the box with black people, like casting black people. Like in that movie, you saw nothing but successful black people, which was great. And at that time, we didn't get to see that often. So, and I think we kind of took that for granted because now, I'm not gonna say now, but about early to mid 2000s, there was just a lot of movies that just weren't good. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to say anything, but like you see Medea Goes to the Hotel or something, right? And just these mid to lower tier movies, but because we didn't see it as much, we're like, oh man, that's black cinema, so you got to go support it. It's great, this and that. Whereas you actually had a movie that was made like a Dead Presidents that I feel a lot of people kind of like push to the side because they're like, we're not used to this. But that's my point. It's like now we're starting to see that again, that kind of creativity, that black creativity, to where we're not seeing just the same sort of stereotype that we would see all the time, and that we can actually say like, no, this is a really good black oriented movie, not just because it's a black movie. Like it's a damn good movie. And I think now and television shows as well. And I'm happy for it, but you have movies like this to kind of pave that way. So sorry,
it doesn't have to be like the prestige movies that are typically recognized, like slave movies or The Butler or something where it's like, look at this guy who served under all the white presidents. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it could just be a story
movies.
with, yeah.
Damn them. Whoa.
Fun fact about this. Did you know that they wanted Jada Pinkett for the role of Delilah, but she had been in Menace to Society, where her then boyfriend Tupac had gotten into an altercation with one of the Hughes brothers. So they're like, maybe we don't do Jada for this movie. They did something else.
Wow.
So she played herself out of that role, I guess. But
boy, Jada, you're on a roll.
Jada.
You are on a roll.
I don't know if he I feel like
he's got
has
some
a pop culture influence, but it's more like
she's got a great ass.
In the word of like the lore and just like the performances. I don't know if like you know, as far as like like you see it or you don't really see it out and about. It's more like, hey, oh yeah, I'm talking amongst my friends. Heat is amazing. Like, you know, I don't know.
I think. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think, like you talked about it a little bit, Sean, like just the the De Niro Pacino coffee scene in itself was kind of marketed as like a big pop culture moment. Like these two titans of acting are kind of sitting down in the same scene. I do think some of Pacino's like kind of more over the top line deliveries and stuff get remembered. And I think you can feel the influence of the movie, similar to what we were saying about Dead Presidents. There you go. More so than maybe if you recognize like a specific moment or scene, like The Dark Knight kind of thing. You know, you might enjoy Heat without even knowing you've kind of seen its influences. This is not a pop culture thing. I just want to bring it up before we move on because we didn't talk about it before. But that whole scene where Pacino comes home towards the end of the movie and he after the firefight, and he just sees that dude who's clearly getting with his wife, and he's like watching TV, and he gets on this whole thing about like the TV. It's like, I don't care about you coming home and banging my wife, but you're not going to watch my TV. He like rips the TV out the wall. It's such a crazy scene, but
I love that.
Let's go to how these movies hold up, Leonard. That's our second criteria point.
I feel like they both hold up pretty damn well.
I think so.
Same.
This was like the last movie. Heat was like the last movie I feel like before De Niro and Pacino entered. Pacino, you can see him verging, but like caricature mode. Like De Niro was 5 years away, I think, from making Meet the Parents, by which point he's like old man De Niro, kind of like tough grandpa. And Pacino was not yet probably at this time like a hoo-ah kind of like punchline kind of guy, but you can see him kind of getting there, and yet he's still very like good in this movie when he needs to be, but he's so over the top. Like I feel like this is right before pop culture kind of absorbed them and they'd kind of stop making their best.
Before he went over to Adam Sandler's Jack and Jill, huh?
Yes, before he became Dunkachino.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they both hold up pretty well. You know, there's a lot going on in Heat, and the heist hold up really well. They're very intricate.
The action scenes definitely hold up.
The action scenes hold up. I feel like some of it, the outs are a little too easy. Like the fact that Val Kilmer's character literally just pulls off, and they don't like pull him out of the car, and they just look at his ID and he gets away. Right. It's kind of crazy. But
well, doesn't she? Because Val's about to see his lady.
Yeah,
but she includes him in. Yeah,
out.
she's like, she's like, no,
which
no,
they
no.
don't see, and then he's like, check the car anyway, and then they stop him, and he just shows him a different ID, and they're like, it's not him, and he just like he gets away. But I mean, but overall, it looked good. It sounded good. I think it held up pretty well. Dead Presidents also. I mean, no real complaints as far as holding up from me. I don't know if you guys have anything.
I can't really think of anything that you wouldn't. Yeah, this category, Sean, we usually talk about like, does it hold up? Like, does it look bad from when it was made? And I don't think that applies to either of these movies. It could also be like, oh, you know, this character said this thing. You wouldn't say that today, kind of thing. I don't think either of these movies are really those types of movies anyway, where if someone said something off color, you're like, well, that's probably because the character is not a good guy.
Exactly.
Right.
So
it's not like it's like 90s. It's not like Heat is going around playing Smash Mouth while they're robbing a bank. You know what I mean? Like dated like
that
back
would
in the
be
90s.
That would be funny.
But that would be hilarious. But no, what helps Dead Presidents out is because it's set in the 70s. So that's the period that you're dealing with.
I actually appreciated how real that scene in Dead Presidents was. I mean, it's a hard scene, but where he's like strangling Juanita, where she's like, he basically makes her say, I don't know what you guys feel about that. Did you think that she was still in some kind of a sexual relationship with Cuddy, or that he was kind of forcing that out of her? Because she did seem loyal to him, and she's even there at the end at his trial, and he's like, just say that you did it. And she goes, oh, is that what you want me to say? Okay, fine, I'm doing it. And then he's like strangling, and he leaves,
I felt like she was just
saying
it just to say it.
I thought so too, a little bit, but
a little bit, yeah. But also, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a little bit of both. Like, she had a child coming in, like she had to provide, and if this man is coming around and is giving her money, I mean, not giving her money like that's why she's going to do it, but she's probably looking at it like, look, I mean, I got to do what I got to do. I got to work. She was on Lorenz Tate's ass about getting a job. Like, oh, your will is good, but I wish your job was, or some shit like that. Like, she's just going in on him about
working. I for sure think they had sexual interactions before, but I don't know if it was after. I don't think it was happening currently.
I just thought a worse movie would have made that less nuanced. Like, he would have just come home and his wife was blowing somebody. You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, cut and dry. whatever, you know, and you
That's a
might
good
still
point.
understand that character's point of view, but it's not. It's like that's black and white. What's happening here, and then that.
But
was
it's
a
like
little
this
bit more.
dude
I don't know.
literally just
I still don't know. if she
sucker
was.
punched him down a flight of stairs and
Yeah.
put a gun in his mouth, and then he has to come up, like leaving
Yeah.
his apartment, dealing with his wife,
Walking
like
out of his apartment.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I you
That's a
know,
good
it's
point.
like you still don't condone it, but it's like I can understand how this could come about.
Right.
Shout out to Martin Sheen at the end of that. That holds up as a
Oh,
as
yeah,
a
that was a little
strange,
surprising,
fun,
too.
interesting
Oh,
cameo.
yeah.
Martin Sheen,
Yeah.
who was most famous initially for being in Apocalypse Now, a Vietnam War movie, playing a judge who's like, when I was in Korea, or was it World War II? Whatever he says, a real war, by the way.
Real war.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
was like,
Like, oh,
Ruh-roh.
shit.
I think I might have the book
all right,
being
now
thrown
we're-
at me. Yeah.
we're to our third, and some would say, I would say, our most
Most
important
important.
criteria.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
Most
Oh.
important for sure.
Sean will
And
agree.
you know what? We have a real possibility here.
will
There's
say.
a real
Someone fucked up.
possibility here. Was Regina Hall in either one of these movies?
Oh, shit. Wait a minute.
She was not.
I could say confidently she was not in Heat, but
Yeah, confidently was not in Heat.
but I
If there
think
was
Dead
any
Presidents
chance
dropped
that-
the ball. She could have been in Dead Presidents quite
She
easily.
really could have been in Dead Presidents.
She could have been
Yeah,
at craft
she-
services or something. We don't
She
know.
could have been.
We don't know. Regina. Oh, man. Because you know she ain't aged, so she probably looked the
No.
exact same. No, I don't think she was in that, though.
We IMDb'd her,
Yeah.
and it's not polite to reveal anyone's age, but we IMDb'd her and found out how old
She might have been a little too young. She could
No,
have played
I'm just
a high
saying it's
schooler.
amazing how
Right.
good she looks. Considering,
yeah.
you know, she
Beautiful.
still
I
looks
know.
great.
I thought she was younger than she was, and then you said
Leonard
something
thought she
like
was
that.
19 years old.
Oh, okay. Good call.
No,
Well,
she is not, and
unfortunately-
she could have been. Well, I mean, you know, we don't want to
You know,
take
she could
roles
have been-
away from people who were quite good. I think Delilah and Juanita were both portrayed very well, but theoretically,
Yes.
those are roles she could have filled. You know, she would have been the right age for, and kind of.
I think she would have been too young to play Allstate guy's white girl in Heat.
Dennis Haysbert,
So-
Allstate guy. Yeah.
Call them Allstate.
Yeah, she
could've
would have
called
been.
him the-
She
yeah.
might have been a fun Ashley Judd. I mean, Ashley Judd was quite good, but you know, I could see her being Val Kilmer's girl, just being like, "Don't
And
come
I
up,
mean,
don't
Dennis
come up here."
Haysbert, who I said earlier. Dennis
Or-
Haysbert's girl.
Dennis
I
Haysbert.
mean, I'm not trying to be funny. She could have been one of Wayne Grove's victims. I'm not trying to, like,
True.
I'm just
That's
saying.
true.
She could have.
That's true.
I will say this. Like, can you imagine? You're like, oh, man, I am going to hope my boyfriend's at work. I'm really stressed out about him. I hope he's doing well. I'm going to go have a beer at the bar, let off some steam. And you see on the news he's been fucking killed in a fucking bank
my God.
robbery.
Oh, no.
How, like, that has to suck.
Seriously.
Never a
Oh,
fun
my
time.
God.
All right, well, we've gone
Always
over
fun to
Regina
think
Hall
about.
again this week, Leonard. We're gonna hit her. We're gonna hit on her one of these times. Neither of those appropriate sounded right. We're going to get
Not
her in
at
one of
all.
our movies at some point.
We knew what you meant.
Let's go on to our fourth category, much more cut and dry. We're talking about stats. That is critics, box office, whatever we got. Leonard, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go?
I'll let you go first.
Alrighty. Heat was made for a budget of $60 million. These are $1995, which that's pretty good. I feel like that's, you know, I guess you call that like
Yeah.
$100 million movie today. And it made $187.4 million. I assume
Oh,
that's worldwide. Maybe it's just U.S. domestic. Either way, that's quite a good return on its budget. Definitely made its money for an R-rated 2-hour and 50-minute movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as big as De Niro and Pacino are, I don't know that they always make like the hugest blockbuster. You know, they weren't the Schwarzenegger and Stallones of their era.
Right.
They were making a little bit more. I think that's a pretty good return.
When did it come out? Like, wasn't it in
1995?
like the winter?
95.
But it like wasn't it in the winter, I think, or something. Because it's
This was
not
a
like
December movie, December 95. So it was a Christmas movie. Go and bring the whole family and see Heat.
right. That's based
December
in Los
15th.
Angeles, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really good because remember, except for what, Home Alone, maybe big budget movies like that, like blockbuster movies, did not come out during Christmas.
Especially
Like, it was
rated R,
always
you're
summer.
cutting off like all the 13-year-olds who are going to be, you know,
Exactly.
reenacting the LA shootout street scene in their homes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're missing.
Exactly.
Let's see, it has an 88% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Only 88.
That feels, yeah, I was about to say, if
That
anything
feels
that
good.
feels low, but that feels good.
I get it.
And what is its IMDb score finally? It is 8.3. That's pretty high. That's a pretty good IMDb score. That probably puts it in its top
IMDb.
250 movies or something, I think. Wow. It's definitely Michael Mann. I've not seen everything Michael Mann's done. It's my favorite Michael Mann. I mean, I think he's done a lot of interesting work. But I think this is like the biggest. This is like when I think of Michael Mann, I think of Heat.
Agreed.
So yeah, those are impressive stats all.
All right. Well, Dead Presidents came out 2 months before October 5th in 1995, October 4th, whatever. Yeah, October 4th of 1995. It had a budget of $10 million, and it made $24.1 million. We know people don't like black movies.
We have gone over that is a real thing. We've seen it true enough on this podcast. It's just black movies. You can just take 15 to 20% off that Rotten Tomato score.
Yeah,
a full point off the IMDb.
We actually, me and Sean, were you here for this practice? We were talking about the Rotten Tomato scores for black films. Maybe you weren't there at that practice.
No.
And not how disrespectful it is. We're going to talk about it right now because honestly, it has a pretty good IMDb score. It has a 6.9 on IMDb.
Nice.
That's a little respectable. I think it should be higher than that.
It should be higher.
I'm going to tell you what the Rotten Tomato is. I want you to guess.
Just call that a 7. I feel like 7 is a much more. 6.9, someone just bumped that. If we all vote 10 on it right now, we can probably bump that up to
right. Because if you say
what do you think it is on Rotten Tomatoes?
On Rotten Tomatoes, I would say if 6.9 on IMDb, I'm going to say Rotten Tomatoes maybe 66.
Can I guess, Leonard?
Yes.
I'm going to go pessimistic because I feel like black movies from that era always got like some like white critic at the Chicago Sun-Tribune just being like, this wasn't my experience. I'm going to say it got 55%.
And you were still being too optimistic. It is 43%.
That's that bullshit.
43%.
Oh, excuse me, 47. 47%.
That's that bullshit.
Audience score 78%. Still disrespectful. 47% tomato meter.
Wow.
Rotten.
That's that bullshit. But you know what? I'm not gonna lie. When it came out, my dad and I went to go see it at the dollar movies. So we didn't help. We didn't help that much. That's all we could do.
You saw it.
I saw it in the theater, but it was a dollar movie. So I'm sorry, Lorenz Tate and Hughes brothers. I tried. It was a good movie. But
it was also like, what do you think the odds if I was a bit too young to see this movie anyway because it was rated R and then that. But like, let's say that I was the right age and I was watching like, I don't know, VH1 in 1995. You think there's any chance I'd see even a commercial for this movie? Probably not,
no
right?
No fucking way.
Like,
no.
Yeah.
No way.
Unless you had Jet Magazine and you see an advertisement in the magazine.
Or you had BET.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Sadly, but that's it. But that's the truth.
Always disrespecting the black films,
That's
man.
that bullshit, man. Sorry. Not sorry.
All good. I mean, not whatever. Clearly not a 47% though.
No, it's not.
Let's get into these final arguments. I believe I went last. I went first last time, Quinn. So you can go first this time.
Alrighty.
Let's hear this.
So the theme for this week was best heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
That means, well, I can't and wouldn't presume to tell you how to interpret that prompt, Sean, but I interpreted it as kind of when we think of heist movies, there are certain, maybe not cliches, but like certain parts of the heist movie that you expect, which is like kind of who's the team, how do we get the team together, what's the score, we see them planning it out, all those kind of heist staples. And one of the movies that like I didn't pick, but seemed like a kind of like maybe even a trap. I think we talked about this, Leonard, as maybe in a trap would have been like Ocean's 11. Something like very clearly. What are you going to say, Sean?
Yeah. No, that's my favorite heist movie ever. Is Ocean's 11.
Wow. I thought you would have lost with Ocean's 11 because it's too kitschy.
I thought if I picked it, I might have lost too. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. If you're talking heist.
Yeah.
And then plus the fact that they brought in no dumbass person to fuck it up. Like everybody on that team was like legit. It was just circumstance that almost derailed them. But anyway, that's neither here nor there right now.
No, that's
we forgot to ask during the episode what movie you would have chosen, and that's funny because
now we know
Ocean's 11.
Well, that's a very
Ocean's 11 didn't even cross my mind. Anyways,
okay,
it's your final argument.
Okay. But that's I think Ocean's 11 has all those elements too. I mean, the one thing actually, other than the fact that it was such an obvious pick that I always get nervous around the obvious picks is is that like nothing goes wrong. And I do feel like you brought up Indiana Jones at the beginning of this at this podcast, Sean. I don't think any of us would call Indiana Jones a heist movie exactly, but he is like going into temples or long dead Christian relic, whatever, and he's taking things. And those movies, it's like it's all part of the adventure, right? Like, yeah, maybe he gets crushed by the boulder, but once he's out, it's like that thing is yours. And I feel like heist movies, except for perhaps Oceans, there's always that element of like you got to pay the price somehow. Even if you get away with the money, you're gonna lose a man, you're gonna lose part of your point. And I think both of these movies have that. So I guess I'm just going down to like what had more of those elements for me. And when I was like, all right, I don't want to do Oceans, I was like, Heat. Tom Sizemore says it early in the movie. The juice is the heat. The heat is the action is the juice in this movie. And I feel like this movie has so much damn action. It is all about what's the score. It's not even about one. We see a heist in the beginning just to whet the taste, and then we know there's that big score coming up. We see Pacino kind of on his heels the whole time. There's like this whole, like the whole thing is surrounding that these guys, their whole lives, even if you're fighting against it or you're contributing in it, it's all about just that score. And that's like all that they do. The action is the juice for all of these guys, no matter what side of it you're on. And I feel like that is a heist movie. And now it's no disrespect to Dead Presidents, which I think is a very good movie. I am glad that you gave me this movie, Leonard. I think that movie is a lot of different things. It is absolutely a heist movie. I'm not going to... I think you cut me off at the pass, Leonard, where you said, the heist's only in the last half hour. You're right. I'm not going to hold that against this movie. But I think in terms of like that part of it, it comes together very quickly and it goes wrong very quickly. I like that. I feel like basically all of Heat is kind of that last half hour of Dead Presidents. Dead Presidents gives you a lot more different stuff. And if you prefer it for Dead Presidents, then there's nothing I can do about that. But I think like Heat builds all those little things up and it's like, why it went wrong and it's going, it spreads that out over a freaking 3-hour runtime. And I love that twist where halfway through the movie, it's not even like, does he know? Is it going to find out that it's us? It's like we see Pacino make the robbers. We see the robbers make Pacino and the LAPD, and that's it, And so it's all about like we know the game, we know the score. Here's a heist. Can you get away with it? And had it not been for that one airplane that was flying by that shone the light on De Niro's shadow that allowed Pacino to get the drop on him, could have turned out the whole other way. And I do think that like element of chance, that element of luck, I think Heat perfectly encapsulates that. I also just think it's a fucking banger, man. It's a great movie. So that's all my argument. It was pretty long-winded, Leonard. Let's see if you can beat my time.
Yes. I have not prepared a final argument.
Leonard.
But I feel it in my bones.
Heat
is a great movie. It is an amazing movie. It's a great heist movie. The things I will say that, some might say that Dead Presidents isn't as heist heavy. And I will argue that in Heat, we only see like 2.5 heists. We see the original heist. It opens with a heist. It ends with a heist. Both heists. The last heist is very quick. It's mainly a shootout. It's not even a heist. It's more of an action shootout. They get in, they get out really quick. We don't really know the logistics of it, the schematics of it. They speak of it, but we never see it. We don't even know how they're committing these heists. It's more about a crew and their relationships and the cat and mouse game between them and De Niro. So that's a really big, interesting part. The reason why I feel like Dead Presidents is a better heist movie, and it is only a heist movie for the last quarter, is we learn how these people get to this point. We don't know anything about anyone really in this movie. It's a lot of in Heat. It's a lot of surface level stuff. We know that Robert De Niro's character is a loner and he's trying to control everyone. We know that him and his wife aren't getting along. We know that Val Kilmer and his wife Ashley Judd aren't getting along. He has a gambling problem. We don't know anything about Trejo. We don't know anything about Sizemore. We just know that they're this crew that does heists and they're good at it and they're getting caught up. Cool. And it's great and it's good. But what I like about Dead Presidents, with me, it's like I can have a disconnect with Heat. It's like I don't really necessarily know how I feel about the characters or whatever, The story is cool. The action is cool. But with Dead Presidents, there's so much more invested in it for me because I am rooting for Anthony. I want him to succeed in life. I don't want him to have to commit this heist, but he does, and I want it to go well. And I understand all the characters who are in the heist. I know why they're there. I know the backstory, and I know why it went wrong. I know why it was going to go wrong. And like any heist movie, there is the moment where they're all sitting down. They have the map. They're planning it out. You do this. You do that. You get what you want from a heist movie, but you get so much more. And in heist movies, it's always like, oh, yeah, they're just committing heist. Cool. But why? Why are they committing the heist? You know? And that's what I appreciate about this movie is I understand why. It's not just some story of some people being like, I'm robbing these people because I like money. It's like, no, I have no other route, and this is why I need this money, and this is why we have to pull this heist off properly. And I think that's why it's the better heist movie.
I think you almost beat my timeline. Sean, the floor now becomes yours. You can expound for as long or as little as you wish, but the only thing left to do is for you to call it.
Damn. Yeah. First off, I am very happy to be on this podcast. And I say that because you guys literally picked two bangers of movies to choose from, which makes it hard to decide on one being the better heist film than the other, because there's so many things to appreciate from both movies. Both movies are influential in their own ways. Okay, I mean, full disclosure, I grew up on Dead Presidents. I know it was one of those event movies for us that as a family, like especially my dad was like, yeah, we're definitely going to go see Dead Presidents. It just so happened that we went to the dollar movies, but still we were like, we got to go see this movie. And what Leonard said, like from a nostalgic standpoint, it means a little bit more to me because, quite frankly, it is a very well-made movie that centers around African Americans, and you understand the struggles that our people were going through during the 60s and 70s. The idea, Chris Tucker's character said himself, he's like, I ain't going to go out there and fight no white man's war. Why am I going to go out there and do this? Which was a very strong sentiment. That was Muhammad Ali's sentiment. I'm not going.
That was the first thing I thought too. Yeah, or when he said it.
And it's so right. A lot of the black community felt that way, and I get it. And so there's a lot more meaning behind Dead Presidents, especially for black people, that I appreciate and that I can understand and get behind. The characters are pretty well developed. I think the locations, the from what they did with Men's Society, that to what they did with Dead Presidents, like you said it, Quinn, the time jump of him running through the backyards, and then all of a sudden that interjects into or intercuts into him running through the woods in Vietnam. Is amazing. Like it is an absolute amazing movie, and the soundtrack. I'm a firm believer in score. I love. To me, if a film score does not hit, that you've already lost half of my investment. Like I have to, the soundtrack, the music has to embody the emotion and the environment that you're creating on screen. So Dead Presidents has that in droves. I think it was your past episode when you were talking about Old Boy versus John Wick. And you were talking about Old Boy is probably like a nuke. Right? Like you brought a nuke to a knife fight. This is not a knife fight, but Heat is a nuke. There's a reason why it's called Heat. For me, if I think heist, when I think of Dead Presidents, to me, it's not just a heist movie. To me, it's a cautionary tale about, like you said, like vets coming back, especially black veterans coming back from war and how they're treated. The things that they deal with, the ramifications, the psychological ramifications that they deal with. There's so much more than just them robbing a bank. Like, and really, not trying to be funny, but when they get to the heist, they didn't even do a stakeout or nothing. They just get to the bank, or they get to the truck, and it's like, okay, it's on.
Yep. Did
you even stake it out? Did you plan the times out or anything? So I get that, because there's so much deeper. There's so many more deeper meanings in Dead Presidents. When I watch Heat, to me that is the epitome of a heist movie. Like it is literally a cat and mouse game. It's about these two characters where one's on the side of the law and the other one's on the other side of the law, but we don't know which is which. But yet they take 2.5 or almost 3 hours to really craft this. You really dive into Hannah's back life, how he's so encapsulated in his job, it's fucking up his personal. He's on his third marriage. Mm-hmm. Like, the man just doesn't care. What he cares about is really the game of it. Like to me, when I watch it, I'm like, he wants to catch De Niro, but I don't think he does, because if he gets what he wants, then it's over. Like, and I don't know if he can. You see it towards the end where he goes back home, and it's like, maybe, but you still, if you spent that many years so encapsulated into your job, it's hard to turn that off. Whereas De Niro, you know this from jump. It's set up that his code, if you can't get out in 30 minutes, like that entire code, or 30 seconds, I mean, as soon as he goes back on his own code, you know it's over for him. And anytime you see like any heist movie now, any action movie now, it's shot similarly. Again, they have to remaster it, because it is the sound, the score is pulse pounding. So from a heist, if we're talking about a heist movie, again, I love Ocean's 11, but I'm gonna have to go with Heat. I have to go with Heat.
Leonard, look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
I have to.
Bang, Leonard. I got you.
I know Leonard's like, why did I ask this fool to come on?
No, this was great. You gave an incredible. You gave a well thought out response. Leonard's going to be salty, but don't let it affect you. You picked, I think, the correct choice. And Leonard, you got it. I got to watch. I get to appreciate Dead Presidents. Everybody wins here, except for you, of course. You lost, for me. But everybody else wins.
I've done too much winning, so it's okay.
I told you I wasn't going back, Leonard. I told you I wasn't going back.
I was expecting to lose this episode. So,
hold your hand out, Quinn.
I tried my best. For a second there, you made me believe that I thought I had a chance. I thought it could
go either way.
Yeah.
Your argument was your argument was, I mean, legit. It was passionate. It was on point. You're absolutely right. To me, it has more meaning than just being a heist movie.
Yeah,
but
I get that.
Yeah.
I was watching like, damn, yeah, this is a lot of movie. I was watching like, oh, wait a minute.
I was getting ready to text you. I was getting ready to text you when I was watching it. I was like, an hour and 28. I haven't seen anybody do any heisting yet. And then they started. And I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, this was a ton of fun. Sean, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
These two movies with us. Thank you for giving us 5 hours of your time to watch these movies.
My pleasure. To watch these two.
This is a great time, Leonard. I have now pulled even with the back-to-back-to-back champion. We are now 2-2 on the season. That's very exciting. We've got 5 more contests to decide who's going to be the winner. I'm looking forward to that. And Leonard, do you have anything to say, or are you sulking?
Sean, you got any shout-outs?
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Yeah, what do you got going on, Sean?
You can find me on Instagram at the letters I am Sean Will. Obviously, a lot of my time goes to the awesome improv group Lemon Pepper Wet. You cannot fuck with us. Like, just put us on any show, we're gonna crush it. We actually perform every second and fourth Monday at MI Westside Comedy. So that's coming up, as well as Silver Lake Lounge, and then working on a couple of different independent projects as well. So but follow me on Instagram, and that's where I post all my stuff at. Yeah,
Liddy, super excited. This is a very fun episode. Thank you for being on. We've
you.
almost collected the entire lemon pepper wet stones.
Infinity
The
Stones.
gauntlet's almost complete.
It's almost complete. I was gonna say something and then I just forgot. Oh yeah. Next week we got a fun episode. It's gonna be a very interesting episode. A wild card prompt. So, Quinn. I hate
Somebody's
you.
landline is
I was gonna say I got nothing, man. I'll see you at the cinema. Until then, we're gonna hold up the cinema. We're gonna take it out. We're gonna rob it. Who would you guys be in a heist movie? Let's leave with this. Who would you be in a heist movie? I'm the guy that drives the van. Who are you guys gonna be? Leonard, you're doing something. You're chatting somebody up. You're like Bernie Mac at the craps table.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Ocean's 13
I am the distraction. I am the
Yeah, I see you as the distraction.
Holding somebody up. I'm like in a truck parked across 4 lanes. Like I can't. The transmission's out. I don't know what to do. But I really did feel the Robert De Niro character, the loner who was like trying to control everything. I was like, damn, I understand that.
Sean, who are you?
Oh man, I'm probably gonna be the like the Matt Damon character in Ocean's 11, where it's like, why didn't you tell me everything? Like, what's going on? Like, oh, you still are in this, Danny? What the hell? Like, I would be like the
guy they give the
but,
least information to.
right? Like the idiot savant, but he's still good at his job. But you just don't give me all the details because I will probably fuck it up. So yeah.
All right, it sounds like we need to get a couple more guys together before we knock over any banks. But until that time, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Leonard.
Appreciate you.
Go lick your wounds. We'll see you back here next week on the Film vs. Film podcast. All right.